NRL Fantasy, rate my team. Bang, bang, bang. We're going to work through these. If you do want to join, get your team rated. Link is in the description. Otherwise, let's tear right into it. First up, we've got the cards here with the big cards, and this is a really interesting team. So I'm going to talk through it play by play. Alex Seyfarth is a guy who, bit of a pod right now, looking like he'll have that starting back row spot, but how long is he going to keep it is my question. I need to see some good form in the trials at some point. Jai Arrow, if he plays in the front row, could be some value, but I'd skip on him. Cant in the back row there as well. He's been playing a bit of lock in the preseason, doing a few things, but Frizzell's going to come off the bench and play lock. I reckon the minutes won't be that great, so I'm a bit sus on him. Jack Whiten wouldn't do it. At center, he's not a great fantasy scorer. Lucas Iro is a very strong center pairing, so I like that. Then Garrick, Keeney, Yongi. Look, Keeney's on a bye round 1, but you can definitely carry him if you do rate him. On the bench, we got Will Price, who I don't think will start round 1 either. I think he should in the halves, but he probably won't. Other than that, it's a pretty solid bench. Look, overall, I'm going to call this a 6 out of 10 right now. I think you need to make some moves. Get rid of Arrow, get rid of Kant, get rid of Whiten, and the rest of it you can sort of play with. Maybe get rid of Price as well. So I've got the buys there. If you want to pause, first 4 rounds of buys, we've got Titans, Storm, Dragons, and Knights. Next up, Hippisley 24. So NFC Trot comes in. For this team here, really strong forward pack outside of Ben Trebojevic. Blast from the past there. Look, if he starts and plays 80 minutes, it's viable. I just hate looking at it. After last year, he really let us down. Then, yeah, good halves pairing, great center pairing. I like the wing fullback set as well. Bench, you want to get Royce Hunt out of your 17. It's okay to have him in emergencies, but not in the 17. Maybe Toya in that spot instead. Maybe a Duffy, someone like that as well. Otherwise, it's a pretty balanced side. I'm going to go with a 7.5 out of 10 just because I'm not a Burbo believer. And you're leaving yourself in a tough spot there because if you start Burbo and he does what he did last year, doesn't make any money, all that, then you're in a spot where your back row is pretty light on money and your forward pack in general will be pretty light too because Connor Watson probably slides into hooker, which means, you know what I mean? Like you're looking at Marmazelis as a guy who you're relying on every week and the backs are very heavy on your bench. So I think you need a bit more money in your forward pack. That's a big piece of advice there. Drinky's Dream with Lou. Let's see this team. So, Matty Nicholson, got to go. We can watch the trial games, but I don't think he's going to be playing big minutes. It's going to be Hosking and Hudson Young. So, Matty Nicholson's got to go from this team. I like the Fogarty pod, though. So, if you like Canberra, I'm a big fan of Fogs. Good center pairing, good wing fullbacks. Bit of talk that Drinkwater could be the goal kicker. But the Cowboys might struggle a bit more this year, so a bit of a coin toss there. I think Drinky's a good shout though to start this year. On the bench, it's a very strong bench. Corey Pakes is interesting with Moser now out for round 1 and potentially getting shoulder surgery if the rehab doesn't go well. So Corey Pakes will be the starter. We'll see if Billy Walters makes it onto the bench or maybe someone else steps into the bench. Hetherington might play a bit of that role. There's a bunch of guys at Brisbane who can play hooker, but Corey Pakes should be the dominant starter from the beginning of the year. Then, yeah, the rest of the team's pretty good. So overall, I mean, Nicholson, you got to get rid of him. With Nicholson in the team, it's probably about a 7.5 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10. If you get rid of Nicholson, I'll bump you up to an 8 out of 10. So I'm going to call this an 8 out of 10 because you're going to get rid of Nicholson right after this. DJ Gandalf, absolute legend from the Discord channel. So let's see this team. Starting from the bench, Metcalf, Horsburgh, Pakes, Duffy. I love that bench. It's fantastic. Derby, if you get to start's really good. Kaltoga, we'll see. I don't think he's going to get big minutes. Then Hunt and Smith. Forward pack is good. Nakora is a big pod, but if you like Cronulla and you like Nakora, he goes on a hot run every now and then. If you pick it right, you absolutely win. Robert Toya, Jack Bird's a very cheap center pairing, and you've got the Pong and Mazu combo there. Only 2 nights. That's okay. Newcastle do have that buy in round 4. That's just one thing to keep in mind. But look, overall, this is a pretty well-balanced side. Like the bench is good. The forward pack is quite balanced. The back line, I mean, you're going cheap on centers, which is a strategy that's worked quite a bit over the years. I'm going to call this a 9 out of 10. I think this is a really good side. I think you're very justified in all the advice you give on the forum after seeing this team, DJ Gandalf. So DJ Gandalf, it's a funny name. But yeah, no, 9 out of 10. I think this is a really good side. Refs, nuts, Zach G. Let's go through this team here. So Zach's got a nice forward pack, very strong forward pack, good halves pairing. Will Penasini's a bit of a pod, but with Moses back, I can see the appeal. AJ Brimson's quite cheap if he plays in the halves and does a bit of kicking. I like that. Watch AJ Brimson closely in the trial games this week because you need AJ to be doing about half the kicking next to Foran to imply that he'll have a decent kicking role next to Jaden Campbell. So it's not the halves pairing we're going to see round 1, but it's round 2, I guess, for the Titans, but it's still worth paying attention to kick meters for AJ Brimson. That's the big thing you're watching for there. Horsburgh, Offa, and Gowie are really interesting, pending round 1 roles. I like them both as guys who can soak up fantasy points. I think Horsburgh's safe. I think Offa and Gowie is very risky, but I do see the appeal. Rest of the bench is really good. You got a lot of scorers there, so I like that bench depth. Overall, with Brimson there, I mean, the wing fullbacks are very weak. That's my one concern. I'd probably get rid of Penasini and run like a Toya or someone like that instead at center, and then use a bit more money to upgrade Brimson to someone good like Kalen Ponga, Jaden Campbell, one of these sorts of guys going for a top tier talent. So if you do those moves, it's a very strong side. But as it is right now, I'm going to call it a 7.5 out of 10. Rolling through to O'Hay. So O'Hay's team, Moser is gone for round 1. Got to flick him. Terrell May, Watson, Gilbert. Yeah, look, other than that, it's a good forward pack. Stephen Crichton in the back line. He dropped about 10 points in fantasy last year, moving from Penrith to the Dogs. Does he bounce back is the big question. Then we got Valame, Ponga, Yongi. So Valame, maybe I'm a bit sus on that too. Stafford Toa, I don't think he'll start round 1. Griffin Neem has a bit of upside. Nuffy White, yeah. Seton Smith probably makes your 17. I'd probably move him up into Toa's spot. Maybe move Marmazelis into the starting team and get rid of Moser altogether. There's some things that need to change here. So the end of the bench as well, there guys probably won't play too. So right now it's a 6 out of 10. Maybe a 5.5 out of 10. But there's some pretty quick fixes. So sell Moser. Sell up to you on Crichton. Crichton's 50-50. I wouldn't buy Crichton, but you can keep Crichton. So sell Moser, sell Valame, sell Stafford Toa, sell Griffin Neem, I think, and then try to upgrade some of your players. So the end of the bench guys need to be like Toya, Duffy, these sorts of guys who might get a shot in round 1. And then you need to upgrade some of those other players to guys we've talked about in the buys videos. So I think move Marmazelis into that starting hooker spot, for example, and you can get rid of Moser for anyone. But right now, 5.5 out of 10. Can move up the ranks there. Shan's Dogs. We got Shan's team. Let's move through this team. Who have we got? Preston's a really good shout there. I like him as a pod. In that back row spot, I feel like you can take a few pods this year, right? So it's not Preston in particular that I love. I just like when I see a back row where there's a pod there, right? So I ran Eli Katoa last year and he was fantastic to start the year. I'm seeing teams with guys like Crichton, Preston, a bunch of other players there as well. And I really like the look of it. In terms of the back line, Karaz is a bit of a pod. Just keep in mind Karaz is dealing with some injuries. I believe he's got a lower back that sort of plays up a bit, which, it can come and go. He's missing a bit of training in the preseason is what I've heard. So just keep an eye on that. Can be precautionary, but it also could lead to something. In terms of the bench here, Madison is one who, if he's starting on the edge back row spot, I love it. If anything other than that, I don't want him, right? Unless he's a starting prop, but I don't see that happening. So I think Madison's one that you might be giving the flick to. Personally, I would pick him as an edge back rower, but I don't know if Parramatta's going to do it. Rest of the bench is pretty solid, though. Ben Trebojevic again. Trauma. So much trauma. Look, overall, I'll throw this team a 7 out of 10 right now. Maybe a 7.5, actually. I do like a few of the pods. I like what you're building. I think the trial games this week will teach you a lot. And I think we'll come out of trials with a bit of a clearer picture on a few of the players that you're taking a gamble on here. Now, just a quick reminder on how to join, guys. Link in the description. You can jump on the WAP there, and then it gets you into the private groups on Discord. So there's big public channel where we can all rate each other's teams, but there's private channels for more one-to-one advice with me as well. All right, Chauraki. Let's see this team. So cool name, by the way, Chauraki. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Marmazelis, Terrell May, Mitch Barnett, vice captain. Yeah, okay. Good back row. My first instinct is to move Dylan Lucas into the center spot if you can, but you got pretty good centers there already. The wing fullbacks are fantastic. That's really good. Halves pairing is one we're seeing a lot of. It's a deep bench too. So John Bateman, Luke Metcalf, Sam Smith. Yep, nice. Then I'd probably move Toya onto the interchange over Royce Hunt personally, or maybe a Duffy or someone like that. Duffy's not guaranteed. I just think if he's a starting half for goal kicks, right, he's in my team. I'm taking that gamble. But overall for this team, I'm having a look. Not a lot of holes in this team. Not a lot of holes. A lot of versatility. You got Bateman there as well. So even if you do move Lucas to center at some point, Bateman can slide right in. It's a deep forward pack. You got some value in the backs. I'll throw this team only 2 Knights, Titans. Storm, do you have any Storm players? Only 2 Storm players. That's pretty good. I'll throw this a 9 out of 10. I'm looking for holes, and I think it's pretty good. This weekend's trials will tell you a lot for a few of you guys that you're taking gambles on there, but 9 out of 10, really good side. Connor Smitty, let's see this team. So for Connor's team, we're looking at a good forward pack, good starting side. The halves, it's Cleary and Luai or Cleary and Munster for most people. And if it's not that, it's Cleary and Metcalf, but most people have Metcalf on the bench. So I won't really talk about the halves unless it's something different to that. Strong center pairing, and you got Turbo there as well. So you're a bit of a manly flavor to this team. It's in particular the back line. Jack Bird's there on the bench, so you could free up money if you did want to get rid of, a Garrick or a Lucas. Royce Hunt would slide him out, bring a Duffy in, or a Toya or someone like that. Good side here. This is a good side. It's really nicely balanced. You fit Cleary and Yo in as well, which I quite like. I'm going to throw an 8.5 out of 10 to this team. I think it's really solid. You don't have any major problems. Again, trial games to tell us a lot this week. Next team here, we got Hopgood in this team, bit of a pod, Kelma. So a few Parramatta players, Isaiah Yongi. That's good to see. And then, that halves pairing we're talking about, Dylan Lucas again. So Lucas is popping up in a lot of teams. One thing to highlight with Lucas, right? So I'm a Lucas fan. Lucas is a weapon. He has a big work rate. He has attacking upside in the back row spot. But he can move to center every now and then. If they have an injury in the back line, he's usually the guy who slides out to center. So just keep that in mind. He can screw you over as well, similar to Bo Firma. But at the same time, he's a weapon. So I do get the appeal completely, guys. On the bench here, we've got Horsburgh leading that bench. I'd give Sam McIntyre the flick. I don't think he's going to get any meaningful minutes. Naden won't be in the side. Puru won't be in the side. So you got to clear those guys out. But overall, I like this team. A lot of pods. You got Latrell there. Buller is one who I'm not a big fan of, but I understand the pod play that people are making with him. I'm going to throw a 7.5 out of 10 to this team. Just need to clean up that bench. That's the big thing. Kind of any red dots in round 1 is my advice. All right, Team Devontae. Let's see Team Devontae. So starting from the starting side, again, strong forward pack. We've got the old Penrith halves, pretty cheap centers, but guys who can get it done. Pappenhausen, Drinkwater, Ponga. That is a wing fullback trio if I have ever seen one. Whew. Would you consider captaining Ponga in round 1? I mean, if you got him in the vice captain spot anyway, I'd think about it. No, look, you probably have. I'm captaining Cleary, by the way, full disclosure. But that is interesting. Hetherington on the bench. So Hetherington's a guy who, pending trial games, if he has a big minute role and looks good at lock, there's a lot of competition for middle forward minutes at Brisbane, but Hetherington could be a guy who soaks up some minutes and scores some points. I just don't really think it makes sense from a coaching perspective. But again, trial games will tell us a lot there. Yeah, bench is pretty good though. Takura, I don't think will get meaningful minutes, so I'd probably give him the flick. Overall, it's a different team. It's a very different team. You've managed to build a pretty solid forward pack, good halves pairing, and carrying that wing fullback trio is pretty crazy. So overall, I'll throw this an 8.5 out of 10. It's unorthodox. It's very unorthodox, and things are going to need to go your way for the trial games for this structure to work, but I think it's a good side. All right, A, B, and T Olive production. So for this side here, Ataka Manu is a big pod. Dylan Lucas in the back row there to make space for Brad and Best. But okay, so first thing I'm going to point out, and it's something that was pointed out in a few of the other videos, Newcastle. Newcastle have that buy in round 4. You've got Lucas, Best, and Ponga. So 3 guys you probably want to keep for long term on a buy in round 4. So just one thing to keep in mind, I'd probably try and keep it down to 2. So the teams I really want to keep it down to 2 players are Titans, Storm, Dragons, Knights, and then potentially the Warriors who have the buy in round 5. So they're the teams where you want to try and keep it down to about 2 players. So I would personally choose between Best and Lucas and play them at center and then fix up the other spot in the back row. That's my advice there. In terms of the bench looks really clean. Look, just one guy at Moser, obviously out round 1, so you're going to give him the flick, but I'm sure you're already all over that. Overall, though, this is an interesting side. I think Atoka Manu might take some time, but the trial games will tell us a bit about him too. So overall, I'm going to throw this team I'm going to go a 7 out of 10. I think you can pretty quickly fix it. So getting rid of Moser and sorting out that Newcastle issue will bump you right up the rankings. MYG, Brayley at hooker is brave. And yeah, okay, White in the starting team as well. Another Garrick team here too. That wing fullback set is nice. So Ponga, Pappenhausen, Yongi. Extended bench is pretty good. Yeah, Takura again. I'm not really super high on Takura unless he shows something in the trials or gets a meaningful spot in the team. Brayley's an interesting one. So Brayley, I don't think he has heaps of individual upside when it comes to fantasy. I think he's priced about what he is. But then you could make the case that Adam Fanua-Blake comes into that team and there's going to be more attacking players on offer. Maybe that does mean an uptick of points. Now, at a hooker position that is pretty dire right now, that makes sense. That actually makes some sense. So, yeah, for Brayley, I'm just going to move one sec. Oh, these are timed lights, man. But for Brayley, I'm a bit, I don't know. I can see the appeal. Look, roll with it if you like it. It's one of those gut calls that you can make. I don't think there's enough upside in him for me personally, but I'll let you make that play. Overall, for this team, it's really nicely balanced again, right? So nicely balanced side. Probably a bit light on the forward pack. I'd probably consider moving Lucas down to center and giving one of those centers a flick and maybe upgrading the forwards. Right now, I'd say it's about a 7.5 out of 10. I think after trials, you get a bit of a clearer picture and bump up as well. Matty Grant, let's go through this team. So for Matty, Isaiah Papali'i's in here, and Papali'i has not been in many of these sides today. He has really fallen off the radar in terms of how he's being rated heading into this season. So just keep that in mind. He's a guy who's fighting for a spot in that team. If he gets the spot, I am all over him. So that edge back row spot, got to have him. But if he doesn't get that spot, give him the flick fast. That's the key there. In terms of the rest of the back line here, it's a good back line. So Latrell, Mark Nawangani Tawase. There we go. Almost there. Mark Nawangani Tawase. And then we got, I'm so stoked on that. We got Yongi, good forward pack on the bench too. So Horsburgh, Finafuyaki, if he gets the big minute role, we're going to have to pen. That's pending, right? And then a solid extended bench. We need Amon and Derby to win spots. Get rid of Moser. He's gone for round one. A couple of changes needed, but overall, I really like the squad structure here. So I think that's what we're fighting for right now. I'll throw this one a 7.5 out of 10. Maybe I'll bump it up to an 8 out of 10. I'm not a big believer in Finafuyaki, so I'd give him the flick. And Bateman and Papali'i, guys, you're going to have to watch very closely in the preseason and make sure they get it right. You're also going to need to get rid of Moser, and you need to move Duffy into that interchange and get rid of Royce Hunt from that interchange spot. Remember how to join, guys? You guys already know. Link in the description here. You can just jump on there, and then it gives you access to the private Discord channels where we do more advice. We do it through the season as well. So this is pre-season, but during the season, we do it constantly. So normally we do a live video on Wednesdays where we go through people's teams, trades, and my ideas on what you guys should be doing there. All right, inactive at 7-3-7-2. Let's see this team. So I'm going to start in the starting team. Mama Zealous, Yo, White, Terrell May, Barnett, Gilbert, Cleary, Munster, all good there. Howarth, Garrick, Yongi, Pappenhausen, Ponga. It's a pretty clean roster. It's similar to a couple of ones we've seen here, so that looks all good to me. Metcalf, Bird, Hunt, Toya. Yeah, look, this is a good side. You're going to have a look at Moser, obviously, but that's pretty straightforward. What I would say for you and this team is, I mean, Garrick is a bit of a pod. Pappenhausen's a bit of a pod. Mitch Barnett's a bit of a pod. You got some pods here. I'd probably be looking for something else. Just in the trials, just try and watch the games and try and find someone who jumps off the page and not everyone is jumping onto. I think you just need one more difference maker in your team. Because you've got some pods here, but just one more difference maker would make this a really nice, unique side that still has the sort of core fundamentals covered down. That's what I'd say for your team. It's just a feeling I'm getting looking at it, but overall, it's a pretty good side. I'll probably drop it if we remove the Moser piece from the equation and just assume you've got all players in your 17, maybe replace Hunt with Duffy, something like that. Probably drop this team a pretty good rating. Probably going to go a 8.5 out of 10. This is a good side. It's a good side. All right, Jack Muzz. Let's have a look at this team, man. So we've got a strong forward pack again. We've got a pretty good back line. Stephen Crichton in another team is interesting. I'm not a big Crichton guy. Like, you can make the case, right? You can make the case that he dropped 10 points last year and the Dogs will be better this year and he'll do better. I don't really see it from a fantasy perspective. I personally reckon Crichton will be a bit of a waste of time for your fantasy team, but he is capable of big upside. So if you like it, you like it. Wing fullbacks, nice and cheap, except for Ponga, which is a really good move in my mind. Mama Zealous, White, Sandon Smith, Jack Bird. Yeah, really good bench. That bench is really nice and balanced, all set up good. Overall, I like the Harry Grant hooker pod. You've only got 2 Storm players, so you can handle that. If you remove Crichton from this team, I'd go 9 out of 10. I'm not a big Crichton believer. That's my one thing. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 regardless. I think it's a really nicely balanced roster. You've gone a bit cheaper at half than a lot of people, but you're backing Metcalf and Sandon Smith. So, yeah, I like this team. I think the balance is really good. I'm going to go 9 out of 10. All right, Cactus Jack. Let's see your side. Another Harry Grant side here. We've got Fanua Blake in a team. Morgan Smithies, Sean Blaw, Ola Kawatu, Lachlan Ilias, Matt Tomoko, Bradman Best. Whew. Hamlin Uele. Okay. Yeah, Cole. All right, there's a bit to talk about here. On the spectrum of players, there's guys who are must-have guys. There's guys who it makes sense that you probably should get. There's guys who are on the fence. Maybe they're priced to what they are, and then you sort of start working down the other end of the scale. So Morgan Smithies, I think, is a guy who has minute pressure this year. Horsburgh's there. He's going to steal some minutes. They got Matty Nicholson there as well. I wouldn't be touching Morgan Smithies. He needs 80 minutes to be effective, and I don't think he's going to get it this year. I reckon they'll do something with the minutes there, and he just won't be reliable as an 80-minute player, so I would flick Morgan Smithies. Adam Fanua Blake has come out and said that he won't play as many minutes this year. He also had like a career year last year, so I'd flick Adam Fanua Blake personally. Ola Kawatu, I don't mind that pod. He can make the leap to be the top back rower in fantasy on paper. So maybe he can do that this year. If you like him and you like Manly, go for that. Sean Blaw is another guy that could make the leap this year if he gets bigger minutes. If he can nail down that 80-minute role next to Munster, great shout. I like that. Lockie Ilias, I think, unless he's the dominant half in this weekend's trial, I'm not that interested. If he does most of the kicking and he sort of steers the team around, Flanagan plays 6, then I actually quite like that pick. Matt Tomoko has averaged 45 in the past. He's priced at about a 38. So you're getting some value there. Bit of a pod. Bradman Best, bit of a pod as well. And then, everyone else, Hamlin Uele, you got to flick him. Got to get rid of him, man. So overall, Cactus Jack, I'm going to say sell Fanua Blake, sell Morgan Smithies, sell Braden Hamlin Uele. Your other pods are interesting. Maybe sell Ilias, but your other pods you can take a shot at. So I like that you've gone potty. I think maybe bring it a bit back to the pack. Get some guys like Connor Watson or Corey Horsburgh or these types of players there. Even a Luke Metcalf instead of Ilias. Like make some of those moves. But otherwise, it's a pretty fun team. Right now, I'm going to go 5 out of 10. But with those changes, you bump up to an 8 out of 10 very quickly. All right, Sky Sport. Let's see this team. So Horsburgh and Connor Watson, the guys we recommended. So I have to give you a good rating. Luke Metcalf's there too. Lucas Bird, really strong wing fullbacks as well. So Ponga, Latrell, Pappenhausen. That's a really unique strategy where you've just gone hard on the back line because you've got Dylan Lucas there too. Bench is very light, but Yongi's there. That's pretty cool. Jezewski, okay, he should be the starter round 1. We'll see how that goes. There's a bit of money in the forward pack too. I think this is a pretty nicely balanced side. I worry a little bit about your forward depth. I guess you can move Lucas and Bird into the back row, and you can move Gilbert into the middle if you need to. But it's a very back-heavy bench that you've got there. That's my one concern. So I think a lot of the cash cows are going to be backs. So we almost need to carry an extra forward to make space. That's my one thing I'm thinking about here. Jezewski kind of counts, but I don't really think he's that reliable. So overall, I'd say this is a nice side. Unique strategy. I'm going to go throw an 8 out of 10. It's a very unique strategy. We'll see how it pans out. But overall, try to bring one more contributing forward into this team. That's my advice there. Maybe give one of these wing fullbacks the flick. Maybe Pappenhausen. You can bring Yongi into the starting side, and you can buy someone decent on the bench. All right, a problem in B-Town. Let's see this team. Brendan Hands. Fisher Harris, big pod there as well. Yeah, look, Hands, if he gets the 80-minute role, I like. Fisher Harris, good PPM historically, so could be decent. Matt Burton could be that top half not top half, sorry. That second best half in fantasy if things go right for him and if Nico Hines falls off a cliff. Then, wing fullback. So you've gone Turbo Town. Seyfarth is a bit dicey, but I can see the appeal. It's a good side. It's pretty potty. I'll throw this team an 8 out of 10. I just need to see a few things come together for your bench in particular. So, we'd see Duffy win that starting spot. Seyfarth, I don't fully trust the 80 minutes for him. Brendan Hands, I don't trust that he'll get 80 minutes. Fisher Harris, I want to see that role develop. But otherwise, it's a really good side. MJ Smokey, all right, good side here. So Fanua Blake in his Sharks kit, looks good. Then we've got a nice forward pack. Jermaine Hopgood as well. You've taken some left field picks in the pack. The back line's pretty clean. Lomax is your big pod there. Career year last year for Lomax, moves back to center, most likely at Parramatta. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but you could say in theory, Para are a better attacking side than St. George were. So maybe he does more goal kicking, gets more opportunities. Then on the bench here, we'd probably sub Royce Hunt out. So we've got a couple of guys here down the bottom. So yeah, emergency 7, your emergency 8 spots probably aren't going to play round 1. So you got to fix that up too. I think you got to give Fanua Blake the flick as well. I just don't think you can start with him round 1. He's too expensive and he'll get less minutes, is what he's saying. So overall, I'm going to throw this team a 6.5 out of 10. Once you make those changes, you need to deepen up that bench and maybe use some of the money from Fanua Blake. So Fanua Blake out for Horsburgh or someone in that sort of price range, and then you can upgrade some of your bench players there too and make them scoring contributors. Harley D with Reggie. Let's see this team. So for this side, you've got a good starting forward pack. Fogarty pod. I'm actually kind of a fan of the Fogarty pod. If he can go back to averaging like 60 next to Strange, then he is an absolutely ace pickup. But can he do that is the big question. Toya and Howarth is pretty light center pairing. And then you've got a bit more money in the wing fullbacks. You've got Garrick who can move in if he needs to. Okay, good cover. Jack Bird needs to be in your 17. Jack Bird 100% needs to be in your 17 because he's probably going to start at lock for the Tigers. So he'll be good enough. Guymer, if he starts at lock he's starting to look at the trials. If he starts in the front row or plays decent minutes in the back row or something like that, he could be valuable as well. Moses got to go, obviously. This is a pretty good side. It's a different side. It's traditional in terms of centers and that strategy. I'll throw this team a. What would you guys give this team? I'm going to throw it a. It's quite unique. Not necessarily unique in the players pick, just really different structure to a lot of teams I've seen, which makes me like it more. I'll go an 8 out of 10 for this side. It's a good side. And just a reminder, guys, how to join. You can jump on, link in the description here. You can jump in and send your team through to get rated as well. Now, Den. Let's see Den. Almost Den, but we got Den. Reece Robson, big pod here. Payne Haas as captain is a big pod as well. Let's talk about those before we move through. So Robson is a guy who he probably shouldn't be worse than his price. He has in the past been a better attacking player than, I'm talking like 3 or 4 years ago, than he has been more recently. So if you can bounce back to that, he's a good option. The Cowboys might lean on him a bit more this year. They've lost a few players. At hooker, really, whoever you want to take is kind of okay. Like you can take a gamble at hooker, and if you like a guy that no one else likes, that's fine. Hooker is very unclear. Payne Haas is coming back from a ankle surgery, so I don't know if I trust him as a captain, but at the same time, the pod is very interesting. So I won't talk you out of it. Just keep an eye on the injury news towards round 1. Bateman Lucas, we like. Bring Lucas into the centers there. So my eyes jump down to the centers. I've got Cobbo and Bird. Cobbo's an interesting pod. I guess Ben Hunt goes in. Adam Reynolds is still there. Reece Walsh is still there. There should be a lot of opportunity for Cobbo this year. Could be a guy who bounces up to a mid-40s average. That would be a bit of value. He's priced at about 40 now. I won't talk you out of that one. It's a big pod. Then the bench here is pretty clean as well. Jamie Humphries is jumping on it straight away. If he's in the 14 jersey, I'd do the same thing. Look, overall, it's a good side. It's a good side. I like that you've made a few pod calls here too. I'm going to drop this team in 8 out of 10, and I need to see Payne Haas. If Payne Haas is fully fit and he's still a pod, I might bump you up to a 9 out of 10. But right now, I just don't think he will be fully fit for round 1. I think he'll play, but he'll be still coming back from that ankle surgery. So I'm a bit concerned about that. And then Rolly, we've got the Ballad and Crusher Town, I think it was the team name. There's a lot of letters. But for this team, we've got Isaiah Yo, Nathan Cleary. So we've got that combo, and we've paid for it by running Carl Lawton as a starting edge back rower. So Lawton definitely got to go. Latrell Mitchell as captain is a mega pod. I'm actually a big fan of that. Look, all right, so the correct answer is Cleary as captain. That's the safe answer. But Latrell, fully fit, round 1. I see the appeal. And, fantasy is about, making some of these calls, going away from the crowd, picking it, right? So if you like Latrell as captain, then I won't talk you out of it. For the bench here, Alec McDonald's got to go. Give him the flick. Outside of that, it's a pretty solid bench. So overall, oh my God, I just realized you've got Hines there too. So you've gone Cleary, Hines, Yo, and Latrell. And then kind of support players around that outside of Terrell May, Jacob Preston. I'm going to give you an 8.5 out of 10. And it's pending a few things, right? So so when you build a fantasy side, there's different strategies, right? So you can go all guns and cheapies, or you can go, a bit more spread out, mid ranges, whatever else. But the correct structure for the year is never clear until the end of the year. So if you are seeing everyone else going for mid ranges, then this strategy is just completely different to that and could potentially blow up in your face. It could totally ruin your season or could lead to massive success. So it's different. I'll go 8.5 out of 10. I'm going to be very critical. So when you send me this team closer to round one and we know who's starting round one, I'm going to be critical of that bench because the bench is the big thing. You cannot afford red dots on your bench. That's my big piece of advice there. So the CSB Coke Lords, we got Jaden Brealey, then really nice forward pack. Zach Hosking, big pod. Let's watch Matty Nicholson this weekend. So if Nicholson looks out of his depth, then Hosking should be okay. If Nicholson looks good, he might earn minutes, and that would be coming out of Hosking's minutes. So I don't love it. Humphreys probably shouldn't be a starter in your team. I like the talent, but I don't know if he's going to start round one. So probably wouldn't be starting him. Then the rest of the back line is good. Garrick and Ponga are anchor guys, and you've got the cheapies. On the bench, it's a solid bench. Good cover for, I guess, the edge back row spot there with Howarth. Bit light in terms of middle forward cover. So if there was a middle forward injury, you're leaning on Royce Hunt straight away. I guess you don't have any buys early to contend with. Just one thing to keep in mind. Probably try and use a bit of cap there. Look, overall, I think Jamie Humphreys has to go there. Hosking probably isn't the guy either. I'm going to throw this team a 7 out of 10. A lot of questions. So the Hosking part, Jamie Humphreys part, they're my big questions for this team. Chevy Stewart, I don't think he starts round one. And Takura, I don't think he gets meaningful minutes. So keep in mind those, but 7 out of 10 right now. Hunter Dog, 08. Hunter DG, 08. So Hunter DG, 08. Let's see this team. 74K in the bank is pretty sweet. Papali'i in there. It's good to see him in the team. Garrick and Best, a really good center pairing. Got Ponga there as an anchor. The bench is pretty light, but not excruciatingly so. I would run Sandon Smith and Tom Duffy over Hunt and Munro. I just moved them both straight up. But yeah, this is a nice side. Jack Bird at the back row spot. And again, I'm kind of looking at this and I'm feeling like there's not enough forward depth. That's my one concern. Yeah, because there's a few guys in your team that are injury risks. So Gilbert, Bird, even Watson at times. But you've got Harry Grant there. I do like that. So I'd probably try and build a little bit of forward depth into this team. That's the big thing I'm going to say there. You might have to sacrifice one of your outside backs to make that money. Maybe bring a Horsbreen or someone like that. But outside of that, it's a good team. I'm going to go 7.5 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10, but you need to upgrade that forward depth. O'Shea, let's see this team. So Harry Grant again, bit of a pod. So Grant, Munster are only two Storm players. Just keep that in mind. They're on a bye round 2. Finafuyaki, I don't think he's good enough to be a starter. I think he's going to play 40 to 60 minutes this year. Bit of talk that he might share a role with Lemuelu. There's just a lot going on at the Dolphins right now. And we have a new coach there, so we can't really tell you what's going to happen without seeing it, basically. Other than that, the forward pack is really good. Halves are good. Centers are good. Backline is really clean. Good use of money. I do like that. I think Yongi's a guy that you can just start. Munro is a guy you can take a gamble on. Atkinson, don't want a bar of that. So basically, you need to give Finafuyaki and Atkinson the flick, in my mind, and then bring in a few guys to replace them in your 17. Right now, I like the distribution of money in this team. You've got Cleary and Yo. You've got the Harry Grant piece there too, Ponga. I'll throw this an 8.5 out of 10 if you can fix those two issues I mentioned. Without them fixed, it's about a 7 out of 10. Anyway, guys, that is Pimp My Team. Done and dusted for today. There's a bunch more teams to go through, so don't worry. I will get to those too. But remember, joining, link below. That's how you join Pimp My Team, or Rate My Team, whatever you want to call it. We call it different things. It'll be Roast My Team before round 1 when the pressure's on. But you just jump on that link, join up, and I'll see you guys there.